Rescued German Shepherd pup at a Marine base won't stop talking, even the Marine can't ignore him. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. Staff Sergeant Daniel Harper moves through the Marine base before sunrise, when the air still carries a faint chill and the concrete holds onto the night. The lights along the service road hum softly, stretching long shadows across the training yard, and somewhere beyond the perimeter fence, the ocean breathes in slow, patient waves. Harper walks with the quiet precision of a man shaped by routine, boots steady, shoulders squared, eyes forward, the kind of Marine who never rushes and never drifts. He has been on this base long enough to recognize every sound, every rhythm, every mechanical whisper that belongs and every silence that does not. That morning, just after 5:10 a.m., as the temperature hovers in the low 50s and the sky lightens by a single shade of gray, something cuts through the familiar order. It is not an alarm. It is not a voice. It is smaller than that, softer, almost conversational, like a sound trying to become a sentence. Harper stops near an old storage area by the decommissioned training field, a place most Marines pass without noticing. The sound comes again, uneven, persistent, not loud enough to demand attention, but too intentional to ignore. He turns, listening, the way he was trained to listen overseas, with patience and respect for the unknown. Inside a battered wooden crate, partially shielded from the wind, he finds the source. A German Shepherd puppy, no bigger than a gym bag, sits curled against the wood, ears still unsure of themselves, eyes bright with something that feels older than his size suggests. The pup does not bark. He does not whine. He makes a series of low, rolling sounds, pauses, then continues, as if explaining something only he understands. Harper crouches, careful, slow, his breath visible in the cold air. The puppy meets his gaze and keeps talking, not frantic, not afraid, just determined. Marines are taught to assess threats quickly, but this is not a threat. It is a presence. Harper has seen silence in men and loyalty in dogs, but this feels different, like the base itself has decided to speak through a small, unsteady voice. The puppy shifts closer to the crate's edge, still murmuring, and Harper realizes he has been standing there longer than he intended, listening. He tells himself it's just a stray, just a pup, but he doesn't move on. He can't. Because some sounds don't fade when ignored, and some stories begin the moment someone finally stops and listens. The base continues to wake as Staff Sergeant Daniel Harper remains crouched beside the crate, the hum of distant generators blending with the steady cadence of the morning watch. Somewhere a gate opens, metal on metal, and a pair of Marines pass by without noticing him, their footsteps fading toward the barracks. The puppy keeps making those low, deliberate sounds, pausing as if waiting for a response, then continuing again, his small chest rising and falling with effort. Harper studies him in the half-light, noting the clean lines of the pup's coat, the unmistakable markings of a German Shepherd, and the fact that despite the cold concrete and open air, the puppy is alert, focused, present. He checks the area instinctively, scanning left and right, confirming what he already knows. No mother nearby. No handler. No collar. Just a crate that should have been empty and a dog that refuses to be quiet. Harper exhales slowly and removes his gloves, setting them on the ground. The puppy's ears tilt forward, and the sounds shift in tone, almost softer, as if recognizing the change. Harper extends his hand, palm open, not to touch yet, but to let the puppy decide. The pup leans forward without hesitation, continuing his strange, murmuring cadence, nose brushing Harper's knuckles, warm breath cutting through the cold. Harper feels something tighten in his chest, a reaction he does not allow himself to analyze. He has spent years learning how to compartmentalize, how to leave feelings where they belong, but the base is quiet enough now that memory slips through. He remembers another morning, years earlier, another dog, older and heavier, sitting perfectly still beside him before a patrol, silent but steady. He remembers the weight of trust without words. The puppy shifts closer, settling one paw on Harper's boot, still, talking, not distressed, not demanding, simply present. Harper glances toward the medical building, calculating distance and time. It is less than half a mile, an easy walk, but the rules of the base are clear, and strays are not his responsibility. He stands slowly, testing whether the puppy will retreat. Instead, the pup rises unsteadily and keeps his eyes locked on Harper, continuing his soft, expressive sounds as if narrating every movement. Harper shakes his head almost imperceptibly and mutters a single breath of air through his nose, not quite a laugh, not quite a sigh. He reaches into his jacket and pulls out a clean cloth, gently setting it inside the crate to block the wind. The puppy immediately settles onto it, still vocal, but calmer now. Harper straightens, radio clipped to his shoulder, and calls in a routine check, his voice even, professional, giving nothing away. As he waits for a response, he remains standing there, eyes on the crate, aware that something small and unexpected has just disrupted the order of his morning. When the radio crackles back with confirmation, Harper nods once, though no one can see him. He looks down at the puppy again, who meets his gaze and continues to speak in that quiet, persistent way. Harper answers without words, staying exactly where he is, because for reasons he cannot explain, leaving no longer feels like an option. The response comes quickly, routine instructions delivered through the radio with no sense of urgency, and Staff Sergeant Daniel Harper acknowledges them with a calm reply before clipping the radio back into place. The sun is higher now, pale light spreading across the base, revealing the ordinary details of the morning, the flag moving slightly in the breeze, the faint smell of coffee drifting from the direction of the mess hall, the quiet confidence of a place built on order. Harper bends again toward the crate and gently lifts the cloth he placed there earlier, checking the puppy more closely for the first time. The German Shepherd pup remains steady, eyes tracking Harper's face, continuing his soft, uneven stream of sound, not louder, not faster, simply constant. Harper notices the pup's paws, oversized and clumsy, the way his tail taps lightly against the wood as if keeping time with his own voice. He has seen many dogs on this base, trained, disciplined, silent unless commanded, but this one seems unaware of rules, or perhaps uninterested in them. Harper lifts the crate carefully, surprised by how light it feels, no more than 15 pounds, and carries it toward the medical building, each step measured, aware of the looks that follow him. A pair of younger Marines pause near the walkway, curiosity clear on their faces as they hear the unusual sounds coming from inside the crate. One of them smiles before catching himself, straightening his posture, while the other shakes his head in disbelief. Harper says nothing and keeps moving. Inside the medical facility, the air is warmer, smelling faintly of disinfectant and clean linen. A Navy corpsman looks up from a clipboard as Harper enters, raising an eyebrow at the sound before he even sees the crate. Harper sets it down gently on the floor and opens the lid fully. The puppy continues, talking, now louder in the enclosed space, his voice echoing softly off the walls. The corpsman crouches beside them, examining the pup with professional focus, checking eyes, ears, and heartbeat, nodding slowly. He remarks that the puppy appears healthy, alert, and surprisingly vocal, and that whoever left him likely did so recently. Harper listens without interrupting, hands resting on his knees, eyes fixed on the dog. The corpsman suggests standard intake procedures, temporary holding, paperwork, and eventual transfer to a shelter if no owner is found. Harper nods again, acknowledging every word, but the puppy's sounds shift when Harper stands, becoming sharper, more insistent, as if objecting to the idea of separation. Harper pauses mid-movement, the reaction immediate and unmistakable. The room goes quiet except for the dog. The corpsman notices it too and glances up, curious. Harper lowers himself back down, and the puppy's voice settles, returning to its steady cadence. Harper exhales slowly, a controlled breath that carries something heavier beneath it. He reaches out and rests his fingers lightly against the crate's edge, not touching the puppy, just close enough to be felt. The puppy looks up at him, eyes steady, continuing his quiet monologue. Harper straightens his back and makes a decision that feels less like a choice and more like an acknowledgement. He informs the corpseman that he will handle the temporary care until formal arrangements are made. The corpseman hesitates, then agrees, noting the unusual behavior with a small smile. Harper lifts the crate once more and turns toward the door. As he steps back into the light of the base, the puppy keeps talking, and for the first time in a long while, Harper does not try to silence the noise. He walks on, listening, letting the sound follow him like a conversation he has been waiting to have. By mid-morning, the base has fully settled into its daily rhythm, and Staff Sergeant Daniel Harper sets the crate down inside a quiet utility room adjacent to his duty area, a place usually reserved for spare gear and paperwork, now temporarily repurposed without ceremony. Sunlight filters through a narrow window, warming the concrete floor just enough to soften the chill. Harper places a shallow bowl of water nearby and a folded towel beside the crate, movements careful, deliberate, as if noise itself might disturb something fragile. The German Shepherd pup continues his steady stream of sound, softer now, but no less intentional, as if narrating the change in surroundings. Harper removes his cover and sets it on a chair, rolling his shoulders once, a habit he formed long ago when preparing to focus. He kneels, checking the pup again, eyes clear, breathing even, posture alert despite his size. Everything about the dog suggests resilience, yet Harper knows how misleading first impressions can be. He recalls how strength often masks need, how the quietest moments carry the greatest weight. A Marine from the neighboring office steps in briefly, glancing at the crate with curiosity and amusement, commenting lightly on the unusual noise before being called away. Harper acknowledges him with a nod but does not explain. He prefers silence to speculation. As the morning progresses, Harper completes his duties nearby, never fully leaving the room, listening to the pup's voice rise and fall with small changes in the environment. When Harper steps out to answer a call, the sounds sharpen, becoming faster, more urgent, until he returns, at which point they settle again into a calm, almost conversational rhythm. The pattern repeats, undeniable. Harper notices it without comment, though something in his expression tightens each time. Around noon, he brings a small portion of approved food, setting it carefully inside the crate. The puppy pauses his talking just long enough to inspect it, then resumes, eating between sounds as if multitasking is simply part of who he is. Harper watches quietly, timing breaths, noting details, the way the pup glances up every few seconds to confirm Harper is still there. The room feels smaller, more contained, as though the outside world has been temporarily placed on hold. Harper sits against the wall, back straight, hands resting loosely on his knees, eyes never fully leaving the crate. In that stillness, memory drifts closer than he expects. He remembers long nights overseas, sitting beside equipment that hummed and clicked, waiting for signals, listening for changes so subtle they could be missed by anyone unwilling to slow down. He remembers trusting a partner without words. The puppy's voice continues, filling the room not with noise, but with presence. Time passes without ceremony. No emergencies interrupt them. No orders pull Harper away. At one point, he closes his eyes briefly, not to rest, but to listen more carefully, and when he opens them, the puppy is watching him intently, still speaking in that soft, persistent way. Harper reaches out and rests his palm flat on the floor near the crate, not touching, but close enough to feel the warmth radiating through the wood. The puppy inches closer, lowering his voice, settling into a calmer rhythm. Harper remains there, grounded, silent, allowing the quiet work of care to unfold without commentary. For the first time that day, the base around them feels distant, and the small room becomes a place of unspoken understanding, where no one is rushed, and nothing needs to be proven. As the afternoon light shifts and stretches across the small utility room, Staff Sergeant Daniel Harper notices a change so slight it could be dismissed by anyone not paying attention. The German Shepherd pup pauses between his soft sounds, lifting his head as if listening for something beyond the walls, then resumes with a different rhythm, steadier, more confident. Harper checks his watch, surprised by how quickly the hours have passed, and rises briefly to step into the hallway. The moment he does, the puppy's voice rises, not distressed, but firmer, filling the room with a tone that carries intent. Harper stops just outside the door, listening, feeling the sound press against him like a hand on his back. He steps inside again, and the puppy's voice softens immediately, settling as if balance has been restored. Harper exhales through his nose, acknowledging the pattern he has been carefully avoiding naming. He pulls a chair closer and sits, posture relaxed but alert, letting the afternoon pass without interruption. When a message comes through his radio requesting his presence elsewhere on the base, Harper responds that he will be delayed and receives approval without question. He sets the radio aside, choosing the quiet instead. The puppy shifts within the crate, tail brushing the towel, eyes bright, continuing his gentle monologue as though satisfied with the decision. Harper brings fresh water and adjusts the towel again, his movements slow, respectful. He notices how the puppy's breathing has evened out, how the tension he had not realized was there has eased. Outside, a gust of wind rattles the window briefly, but inside, the room remains calm. Harper leans back against the wall, closing his eyes for a moment, not from fatigue, but to listen without distraction. The puppy's voice fills the space, not loud, not urgent, just present, like a reminder. Harper remembers a phrase an old instructor once used, about paying attention to small signals because they often arrive before bigger truths. He opens his eyes and watches the pup closely, seeing not weakness, but determination in the way the dog holds himself. When Harper stands again, the puppy quiets slightly, eyes tracking every movement. Harper reaches into his pocket and removes a simple piece of cord, fashioning a temporary marker to place gently near the crate, a small sign that someone is here, someone is responsible. The puppy responds by shifting closer to the edge, lowering his voice, as if acknowledging the gesture. Harper feels something unfamiliar settle in his chest, not heavy, not sharp, but steady. The base outside continues its routine, but inside this small room, something else is taking shape, something that does not announce itself with fanfare or urgency. Harper remains there as the light fades toward evening, listening to the puppy's voice carry on, realizing that some connections do not require explanation, only attention. He stays, grounded in the moment, aware that whatever brought this dog here has already done its quiet work, and that sometimes the smallest signs are enough to change the course of a day, or a life. As evening settles over the base, the utility room grows quieter, the distant sounds of movement and conversation thinning into a low, steady hum. Staff Sergeant Daniel. Harper remains seated on the floor, back against the wall, the German Shepherd pup still inside the crate, his soft voice continuing like a thread that refuses to break. Harper notices how the puppy's sounds have become slower now, more deliberate, no longer driven by urgency, but by presence. The light outside the narrow window dims to a muted orange before fading toward blue, and the temperature drops slightly, cool air seeping in around the edges of the building. Harper pulls his jacket closer but does not move away. In the quiet, memory begins to surface, not sharply, but gently, the way it does when resistance finally gives way. He thinks of the last dog he trained with, a seasoned partner who understood commands without hearing them spoken, a presence that stayed close during long nights when sleep would not come. Harper remembers the day he left that partnership behind, telling himself it was necessary, that some chapters had to close, even when they did not feel finished. The puppy's voice rises briefly, then settles again, as if responding to the shift in Harper's breathing. Harper opens his eyes and looks at the crate, seeing not just a small dog, but a reminder of something he had carefully packed away. He shifts his position, knees drawn up slightly, hands resting loosely together, allowing the weight of the memory to pass without pushing it away. The puppy watches him intently, ears tilting, continuing his low, expressive sounds, not demanding, not accusing, simply present. Harper speaks quietly for the first time, his voice low enough that it barely carries, words simple and unadorned, acknowledging the moment without explaining it. The puppy responds by softening his voice further, as if listening in return. Harper feels the tightness in his chest ease, replaced by a steady warmth that surprises him with its familiarity. Outside, the base lights flicker on one by one, illuminating paths and buildings with practiced efficiency. Inside the room, Harper adjusts the towel again, making sure the puppy is comfortable, then sits back down, choosing stillness over distraction. He realizes that while he has kept the puppy safe throughout the day, there is another part of the work he has avoided, something quieter, more personal. The puppy's presence has brought it to the surface, not through force, but through consistency. Harper stays where he is as the night deepens, listening, acknowledging that while he may not be able to change the past, he can choose how he responds now. The puppy continues his gentle conversation, and Harper remains with him, both of them occupying the same small space, neither needing more than that. In the calm of the evening, Harper accepts that caring for the puppy has also begun to reopen something in himself, something he thought he had left behind, and he allows that realization to settle without fear. Morning returns to the base quietly, the kind of dawn that does not announce itself but simply arrives, pale light slipping through the narrow window and settling across the floor of the utility room. Staff Sergeant Daniel Harper stirs from where he has remained through the night, not asleep, just still, listening as the German Shepherd pup continues his soft, steady voice, slower now, almost thoughtful. The air is cooler, carrying the clean scent of early hours, and the base outside has not yet found its full rhythm. Harper stretches his shoulders once and rises carefully, checking the puppy first, eyes clear, posture calm, breathing even. The pup watches him closely, tail giving a small tap against the towel, his voice lifting slightly as if greeting the day. Harper brings fresh water again, adjusts the cloth beneath the crate, and notices how the puppy shifts with more confidence, movements less tentative than before. When Harper steps a few feet away to retrieve paperwork, the puppy's voice sharpens just a little, and when Harper returns, it eases again, the pattern now unmistakable. Harper acknowledges it with a quiet nod to himself. A knock sounds briefly at the door, and another Marine peers in, offering a neutral glance and a comment about the unusual resident before moving on. Harper remains focused, unbothered, his attention anchored to the crate. As the morning progresses, Harper carries the crate outside for a short moment of fresh air, holding it steady, careful to shield the pup from any draft. The puppy continues his gentle talking, ears tilting toward distant sounds, absorbing the world with curiosity rather than fear. Harper sets the crate down near a patch of sunlight and watches as the pup settles, voice softening as warmth reaches him. Time passes again without urgency. Harper completes small tasks nearby, always within sight, always listening. By late morning, the puppy's movements are more assured, his voice more playful in tone, as if discovering the range of what he can express. Harper finds himself responding without thinking, a quiet sound of acknowledgement, not quite a word, but enough. The puppy pauses, then resumes, satisfied. Harper realizes then that the dog is not simply making noise. He is communicating in the only way he knows how, testing connection, confirming presence. Harper crouches beside the crate again, this time placing his hand gently on the floor just inside the edge. The puppy leans forward, sniffing, then settles close, lowering his voice to a near hum. Harper remains still, allowing the moment to hold. The base around them continues its routine, but for Harper, something has shifted. The puppy is stronger now, steadier, and Harper senses a shared rhythm beginning to form, quiet but undeniable. As the sun climbs higher, Harper understands that the dog has made it through the most uncertain hours, and that both of them have crossed a small, meaningful threshold together. He stays close, listening, as the puppy continues to talk, not because he must, but because he chooses to, and Harper, for his part, continues to listen, knowing that this steady exchange has already begun to change them both. By early afternoon, the base moves with renewed purpose, voices carrying across open walkways, vehicles passing in steady intervals, yet inside the utility room the atmosphere remains calm and contained. Staff Sergeant Daniel Harper sits near the crate, paperwork finished and set aside, his attention resting fully on the German Shepherd pup. The puppy's voice continues, but it has changed again, less frequent now, more selective, as if he has learned when sound is needed and when silence says enough. Harper notices that the pup no longer watches him with uncertainty, but with expectation, eyes steady, posture relaxed, trusting that Harper will remain. A Navy corpsman stops by briefly to check on the situation, kneeling to observe the puppy's behavior. He comments that the dog appears unusually expressive and remarkably attuned to Harper's presence. Harper listens, nods, and remains quiet, letting the observation stand without explanation. When the corpsman leaves, the room settles again, sunlight shifting slowly across the floor. Harper reaches into his pocket and removes a small, unused dog tag chain he has carried for no particular reason, setting it carefully beside the crate, not attaching it, just placing it there. The puppy notices immediately. Leaning forward to inspect it, letting out a low, curious sound before settling back. Harper watches this exchange closely and feels a sense of recognition, subtle but firm. He speaks softly, not issuing a command, just acknowledging the pup as someone who belongs in this space. The puppy responds with a gentle sound, tail brushing the towel, his voice now almost conversational in rhythm. Harper realizes then that the dog has been listening just as much as he has been speaking, adjusting, responding, learning. The base outside continues uninterrupted, but for Harper, the moment feels significant. He considers the options laid out earlier, the procedures, the transfer, the paperwork, and finds that none of them carry the same weight as what is happening now. The puppy shifts closer to the crate's edge, lowering his voice, as if sensing the gravity of the moment. Harper rests his hand near the crate again, closer this time, allowing his presence to be felt without forcing contact. The puppy remains calm, eyes half closed, breathing steady. Harper takes a slow breath, feeling the decision settle in his chest. He understands that the dog has already chosen him, not through declaration, but through consistency, through that steady voice that refused to be ignored. Harper accepts it quietly. He straightens his posture and makes a note on the paperwork, marking the puppy as temporarily assigned under his supervision. The words are simple, procedural, but the meaning behind them is not. The puppy lifts his head as Harper finishes, releasing a soft sound that feels like agreement. Harper allows himself a small, restrained smile, not wide, not obvious, just enough to acknowledge what has been decided. He remains seated beside the crate as the afternoon wears on, listening to the puppy's gentle voice, aware that this quiet choice has already begun to shape what comes next. The room holds steady, and in that stillness, Harper recognizes the beginning of something neither of them had planned, but both of them needed. As evening returns once more, the base settles into a quieter rhythm, lights glowing softly along the paths as the sky deepens into a calm blue. Staff Sergeant Daniel Harper stands outside the utility room for a moment, listening to the distant sounds of routine and order, then turns back toward the crate. Inside, the German Shepherd pup rests more comfortably now, body relaxed, eyes lifting when Harper enters. The puppy releases a gentle sound, not insistent, not urgent, simply acknowledging presence. Harper closes the door partway, leaving it ajar, and kneels beside the crate, resting one hand on the floor. He watches the pup closely, noticing how the voice that once filled every moment now appears only when it matters, softer, measured, almost thoughtful. Harper understands that something has shifted. The puppy is no longer asking to be seen. He knows he is. Harper speaks quietly, offering a name without ceremony, a simple word chosen for what it represents rather than how it sounds. The puppy lifts his head and answers with a low, warm sound, as if testing it, then settles again, satisfied. Harper remains there, letting the name exist between them without repeating it. Outside, the wind moves through the flag at the edge of the base, fabric brushing air with a steady whisper. Harper stands and prepares to leave for the night, gathering his things, checking once more that the puppy is comfortable. As he reaches for the door, the puppy releases another soft sound, longer this time, not a call to stop, but a reminder. Harper pauses, then turns back, resting his hand briefly against the crate, allowing the contact to register. The puppy quiets, eyes closing halfway, breath steady. Harper straightens and steps out, closing the door gently behind him. He walks a few paces down the corridor, then stops, listening. Inside the room, the puppy remains calm, silent now, as if trusting that Harper will return. Harper nods once to himself and continues on, carrying the weight of the day lightly for the first time in years. The base lights guide his path, and the night air feels less heavy. When he looks back once more, the building stands unchanged, but Harper knows that inside it, something small and steady waits. He leaves without hurry, confident in the quiet bond that has formed, understanding that some connections do not demand constant attention to endure. They ask only for presence, for listening, for the willingness to stay when walking away would be easier. As Harper moves into the night, the base continues its watch, and somewhere behind him, a small German shepherd pup rests peacefully, his voice finally at ease, knowing that he has been heard.